Good morning, friends. Well, I have a topic now, accidentally, for my next video, and it's about battery charging. So I was getting my little 350 mil or 300 milliamp batteries charged for tonight's indoor flying, and I was using a parallel charger, something like this. I always use some that are from Buddy RC. I also got one that Joshua Bardwell designed from Ready Made RC. This one is specifically for charging 4S batteries, and you can actually do 10 batteries at once on this. They have removable fuses, so if one does short out, you can get replacement. But I was using this board, and I can charge 6 XT30 connectors. And what had happened is I just got some new batteries from Get FPV, and they came with the red JST connectors on it. I like the XT30s because they can handle higher current draws. So I went ahead and snipped off the wires one by one, so you don't want to short across both of them at the same time, because that'll short the battery. So I was very careful on snipping the wires and tinning them, and then putting on the connectors. Well, as I was moving a magnifying glass to check the solder connection, I accidentally shorted the negative and the positive together on the battery, and the battery got warm, very warm. So I let it cool down, and I tested the voltage on the battery on the parallel connection, and it seemed to be fine. Each cell was 3.8 volts. So I went ahead and finished the connection, and I plugged it all into the charger. So when you're using a parallel charger, there's lots of videos out there, but basically what you do is you take your hot lead, your high voltage connection, and you plug in that first. So I was charging 5 batteries. I plugged in all 5 XT30 connections first. Then you take the balanced lead and you plug it into the balance portion of the board. So this has 6 balance connectors and 6 XT30 connectors and 6 inline fuses. So the battery that actually caught fire was the last one in the series, thankfully. It was right here, and as you'll see in another video, it actually charred a little bit of the actual plastic on the balance board. So I was in the room when I was charging, and I did not have these in a LiPo safe bag because I was just in the room, but I should have. So that was my mistake. But anyway, as soon I was on the computer, and as soon as I heard I immediately turned around, removed the power from the charger, unplugged the battery, and it was starting to get hot and starting to puff. Unplugged the battery and ran it outside and threw it onto the concrete. And from there it continued to cook even more to what you're seeing now. So I was very lucky and did not burn my house down. If you search LiPo fires and house fires, you'll see some astonishing results. Unfortunately, people have lost their homes. So I was very lucky this morning, and I will be more cautious in the future. So I just wanted to kind of give you some tips. If you do want to use a parallel charger, they are safe, but here's how you should do it. Is you plug in the power connection first, the XT30 or XT60, whatever you're using. Get all of them plugged in at once before you plug in the balance connector. So what happens is when you're doing parallel charging, if one battery is 3.8 volts and the next one is 3.9 volts, then when you plug in the power connections, leave them for like 30 seconds, and what will happen is the one that's 3.9 volts will bleed down the voltage to the other battery, 3.8 volts, and it will try to by itself balance and kind of get all batteries within the same voltage before you start charging. A good rule of thumb is you want to check all your batteries before you put them on the parallel charger. So if you have a 2-cell battery, then you should be no more than 0.2 volts difference. If you have a 3-cell battery, it's 0.3 volts. So basically it's 0.1 volts difference for every cell. If you have a 4-cell battery, then it should be no greater than 0.4 volts difference. I want to make sure that they're all starting out to be about the same. What current do you charge at? So basically you take whatever size pack you do. So these are 300 milliamps. You add up how many batteries you're using, because all of them, basically all the batteries are in parallel. So if you have a 300 milliamp and a 300 milliamp, 3, 3, 3, 3, 6 times 300 milliamp is 1800 milliamps. So I would charge all 6 batteries on a 1.8 amp setting. That would be basically a 1C charging, and it's charge it up to 4.2 volts. So the charger that I like to use is the ISDT Q6 charger. It's a 300 watt 14 amp smart charger. And so what I did is I had an old laptop power supply, and I noticed that the output voltage was 19 volts at 3.42 amps. So I thought this was fairly sufficient to be able to charge my smaller batteries. To do the larger 4-cell batteries, I actually have a larger old laptop power supply that I use. So I carefully soldered on an XT60 connector. So when I'm charging with AC, this is my setup. So basically you plug in your AC to this. So you can either do a single battery. So here's a 3-cell 2200 milliamp. You would plug the power lead in, and then it says 1 or ground, pin 1. So on my connector here, the red is the positive side. So I want to plug it in just like this. And you can see it automatically measures the voltage. So each cell is 3.82, 3.82, 3.83 voltage. So this is a fairly well balanced pack. And you have this multi-wheel where you can roll it and you can push it in. So if I push it in, then I go to the task settings, and I wanted to charge. If you don't want to charge, you can push and say discharge or storage. Now some people might say, well, where's the balance connection? It's a smart charger, so it automatically, if you select charge, it will do balance charging always. You can select your battery type, LiPo high voltage, LiPo lithium ion, etc., etc. Your cell voltage, 4.2 is the normal. If you're doing a high voltage setting, you can do 4.25, but several friends have recommended don't ever charge it at the high voltage. It just puts extra wear and tear on your battery. Cell count is 3S. It automatically figures it out because you have the balance connector plugged in. And then here's where I do my charge current. So push in. This is a 2200 milliamp battery. So using a 1C charge rate, I want to do a 2.2 amps. So I scroll down, 2.2, push in, and then start. So it goes red, it's now charging. It shows you how much amperage is trying to push in there and how many milliamps that it's already put into it. It says 70% battery life right now. And so it'll increase your voltage as you go. So if you just scroll the wheel, eventually it's going to give me a milliohm resistance for the battery. It has to be charging long enough, there it goes, in order to figure out what the resistance of each cell is. So this is a good battery. It's the first cell is 11.6 milliohms, the second one's 10.2, third one's 8.9. So from this I know that this is a well-maintained battery, fairly low resistance values. Now if you had one cell that was say 100 milliohms, compared to the other ones that are like 10 milliohms, then I would probably mark this battery and keep an eye on it, because I'm getting some higher resistance on that one cell. And you scroll again, your input voltage is 19.3 volts, 29 watts. And then the output voltage is 11.6 volts, 26 watts. So it's basically 29 degrees Celsius. I put in 630 milliwatts so far. Now if you need to stop the charger, just push in and it says stop, push in again. Now I'm stopped. Now if I want to do it with my parallel board, plug in my Buddy RC parallel board. And then now again, I would plug in the power leads first. So I plug in all the XT30 connections, get all the batteries together. Then I go, after about 30 seconds, then I would go back and plug in all the balance connections. So a while ago on the flight test channel, I saw them promoting a bat safe battery, which you'll see here. We're going to go into, I bought 2 of them, and so when I do some parallel charging for my larger batteries, I will actually put the charger and the battery and the balance board all inside the bat safe. So let's go over that now. So when you get the bat safe battery, that has this connection here, you're going to take out the rubber connection and then feed your balance connector and your power lead through. And so basically it's made of steel double-lined case, and there's actually some fireproofing insulation inside there. And so the holes which go through to the top are for ventilation. So if it does catch fire in here, it needs to release some of that smoke. So it goes through the fireproofing and kind of filters it out. And check out the flight test video where they actually purposely blew up a battery inside and to look at the difference. It's pretty outstanding. So as you can see, I have my parallel charger inside, and I bought some balance or banana connection extensions that went through the connection into the top. So this way I could remove this balance board if I want to put a different one inside. So again, I would plug in the XT60 connections first, kind of let them settle out for like 30 seconds, and then I plug my balance connectors into the board. So I can charge 4 batteries in here at once. I typically use the 3-cell, 4-cell batteries in here. So once you get all your batteries plugged in, you can carefully close it up and put your charger on here. One thing I also wanted to talk about is storing your batteries in a LiPo safe pouch. You can buy several of them. This one's Turnigy. You can find them on Amazon or various other places. It's pretty simple. You put your batteries in here, and then when you zip it up, just run your cables out the end to the charger. The other type you can get is from Flight Test. They have these when you buy a power pack. They usually ship one of these with the power pack. A little more of a flat design, but also a very sturdy LiPo safe pouch. So when you're charging your batteries, the best idea is to put them in a battery safe or LiPo safe bag.